All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Questions for head coach Jay Johnson, please raise your hand. First question, Brian Peterson.
Coach, I guess just first impressions of Ole Miss and what stands out.
Yeah, obviously a talented team. I think they were a preseason top 5 team. Old players that have been, name players in college baseball. Familiar with a couple of them being their West Coast guys. Derek Diamond and Jacob Gonzalez are 2 guys that we recruited. Jacob Gonzalez is shortstop. Usually hits first or second for them, or in the top 3 in the order. Derek Diamond, one of their starting pitchers. Doug Nikhazy, obviously, I think he was on one of the All-America teams, either first team or second team pitcher. Taylor Broadway, good closer. So very talented. Tim Elko, obviously, has had a good tournament, had a really good SEC tournament as well, has power. So as advertised, not a surprise at all that they're talented.
The pitching numbers, particularly the strikeouts, really kind of jump off the page. From what you've seen, is that more about stuff, location?
Yeah, I think it's, again, they just have big arms and talent, and they recruit very well. Mike Clement, their recruiting coordinator, is one of the hardest working guys in college baseball. Recruits coast to coast, obviously. Coach Bianco is a great coach, and they have a great product to sell there with their crowd and their atmosphere and being in the SEC and all of those types of things. So I think and just looking at the pitching is just they have really talented guys and a lot of guys that will probably be pro pitchers, after their time at Ole Miss.
Thank you.
Next question, Michael Lev.
You've been in situations similar to what Ole Miss just went through, having to play on a Monday, and then go on the road for the next round. Is that a big disadvantage, or is there a certain point where adrenaline just kind of kicks in and carries you?
Yeah, I think it's postseason baseball with 2 of the best teams in the country, and you can't be one of the best teams in the country if you don't have tough-minded, resilient players that are talented. You mentioned in 16 we had that, and we're that way, and I don't expect them to be any different in that regard, and haven't really given much thought to that.
What stands out the most when you think back on that series against Mississippi State?
Bobby Dahlbeck. That pitching performance was special, and I give him a hard time. It's great to see him be a successful major leaguer. I told him a long time ago he would have been there 2 years quicker if he decided to pitch, because performances like that. That obviously, and then Jake Mangum. I remember the last out of the first game, we made a pitching switch when Bobby had thrown a shutout for 8 2/3 to flip Jake Mangum around and have him hit right-handed, and Cameron came in and struck him out. That stands out. And then I remember thinking, I don't remember the pitcher's name, but we were down and they brought in a sidearm pitcher to face Ryan Aguilar. And, I felt like it was a great matchup. Like, I felt like we caught a break, and then he hit the long home run. And then probably the last thing was we were the home team in the second game. So when Cesar hit the walk-off, I wanted to triple check that the game was over for sure, because it was strange being the home team on the road. So a lot of fun, good memories, and something obviously that has helped us, get the program to where it is today.
The other day, Coach Checkitz was talking about this idea of West Coast baseball, and maybe there's certain characteristics that West Coast baseball has, and he thought that was one of the reasons the matchups against you were so competitive and close. Maybe Oklahoma State wasn't quite used to that. Do you think there are any significant differences between the style of play on the West Coast and what you might see in the SEC or the Big 12?
Yeah, I do, but I think it comes down more to the personnel and the players. I think there's advantage to both. I think, there's more people on that side of the country. The other thing too is on that side of the country, I think maybe college and going to college is held in a higher regard, and, being at a place, like an Ole Miss, like an LSU, like a Texas A&M, like those kids grow up really wanting to go to those schools. And so they do a nice job of keeping a lot of their talent, away from Major League Baseball. I think out here, the advantage we maybe have is the weather, and players, can develop different skills. I think the physicality and strength of players in the East Coast is a little more pronounced, and I think you'll see that with their team. So I think there's advantages to both. I think it's just important to know who you are and what you do and stick to that.
Next question, Ari Koslow.
I know it's still early in the week, but just so far, what's kind of the general feeling among the team heading into this weekend Super Regional play against Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think it was really important for me that they got to enjoy, being a regional champion on Sunday, and we talked about that. I think if you don't stop for a second, you can somewhat lose track of why are you putting in all the work. And so that was important, and I think that they did that. Then yesterday in our communication, it was pretty simple. One thing this team has done good all year is move forward, and it's been a theme. When we swept 4 games at the Frisco Classic, which was a great performance, and kind of we maybe announced ourselves as we're going to be a team that's going to be hard to deal with. That weekend, we really needed to move forward, and I felt like our players did a good job of that. When we would sweep a good Pac-12 series, there's always that next challenge on the horizon. So it's important that you move forward. And so I have great confidence in their maturity and ability to move forward into this week. And, we'll start that off. They lifted earlier, and we'll have a good practice tonight.
Next question, back to Michael Lev.
Did the team have the day off yesterday?
Yes. Yeah. We took the mandated day off yesterday.
Okay. If someone had told you in May of 2019 that about 2 years later, you would go through 3 NCAA tournament games and walk only 2 batters total in those 3 games, what would you have said?
Well, I knew we had really good pitchers coming. Sometimes it's hard to really see that when you're going through a situation like that year where, again, we were Texas Tech or Oklahoma football scoring 60 and giving up 50. But I had faith that we would be better. And, when you think about Garrett Irvin, why was he going to be successful here? Is because he's a strike thrower. Chandler Murphy, why was he going to be successful? Because he was a strike thrower. Dawson Netz was a strike thrower. And so having these guys in the pipeline, I had great confidence. It just took them a little while to get here. It's like Chandler committed after we played for the national championship. That was 2016. I mean, he didn't pitch a game for us until 2020 because he was a freshman. So those are just some of the elements that behind the scenes about. If you're not in tune with that kind of stuff, you don't know about. So I don't know if I'd say I was surprised. I was confident that we would get better on the mound as the longer time went here. And I think last weekend was a good reflection of that because this group has gotten better throughout the year too. I mean, we gave up 13 runs to Oregon on a Sunday, in early April. So I'm pleased with their progression, this group's progression throughout the year as well.
When what kind of an influence does that have on the outcome of a game when you walk that few number of batters?
I think it's everything. I would equate it to turnovers in football. You win the turnover battle in football, you put yourself in a good position to win. You win the free base war in baseball, you put yourself in a good position to win.
Next question, back to Brian Peterson.
Do you have an update on Mac Bingham?
He's available to play. Yeah, he's available to play. And, right now, this time of year, it's really day to day with everything, which is not really different than how I do it in the regular season. And he's improving. Was at weights this morning and moving bars around pretty good. And I feel real good about the direction he's heading as far as to improving his role. And
are you anticipating any changes to your roster? Are you able to change from one round to the next?
You are able to change. And it's not a competitive advantage for me to comment on that right now. I think there's some differences between how you set yourself up for the regional versus the super regional based on the number of games that you could play.
Thank you.
Next question, back to Michael Lev.
In terms of executing pitches, locating pitches, what have you seen out of Chase the last couple times out?
Yeah, I thought he missed over the plate a little bit too much on Friday. The Dixie game feels like a year ago at this point in time. So I don't even remember. I thought Oregon State, he was really solid. I thought he pitched really well at Oregon State, which is the weekend before that. So, it's not that long ago. I think when we put a demand on him that we did to be the Friday starter and to meet or answer the call every week over 15 weeks in a league like the Pac-12 or the SEC, there's going to be some bumps in the road. I feel like we've managed his pitch count well. He's done a great job of managing his conditioning well, but there probably was a point in time where he's had to break through, being a little bit fatigued, being a little bit tired. And so I'd chalk it up to that. Through a great bullpen. And I think got his preparation tweaked a little bit for this week on some adjustments that we made that I feel really good about. I think mindset wise, he'll be in a good space and be able to make a good contribution for us this weekend.
Well, when you say missing over the plate and you look at some of the numbers, I don't think he had a 3-ball count in the whole game, but a lot of the hits came in situations where he had 2 strikes. Is that kind of play into that a little bit?
Yeah, and take nothing away from Grand Canyon. That's a good team. They won 39 games. They have good players. I think Ortiz is a pro player. Juan Collado, one of their best players, was actually out and missed the tournament because he hurt his leg in the WAC tournament. But Elijah Burries is a good player. So I tip my hat to them. And then we kind of had some bad luck. I mean, the ball that bounced over Brandon's head at first actually hit behind home plate. Like it wasn't fair. And then it bounced into fair territory and then bounced over Brandon's head. And that was significant. That scored the guy all the way from first, ended up being an extra base hit. And then they punched one through with 2 strikes, where if that doesn't happen, it's a completely different start to that game. So I think he got a little bit unlucky. I think he knows the things that he needs to do better, to execute better and keep guys off base or keep the barrel off of the ball. I think his bullpen was a good step towards that. I think mentally he's moved past it and will be in a better place to execute better this week.
I think you were 0 on challenges over the course of the weekend. What have you learned about that, the system, which plays you should challenge? Do you feel like you picked up anything that could maybe help you to make better decisions about that going forward?
Yeah, the 2 of them were so late in the game that I wasn't worried about losing them. So that was the decision to challenge. Like Tyler's bunt, I believe it was on Friday. No, it was on Friday or Saturday. I just felt like that was a good one to go for. We were trying to get somebody else ready in the bullpen, so it was going to give them more time if we challenged it. And it's like timeouts in basketball. Like there's no use you don't take them to the locker room when the game's over if you need to use them. So I think the thing I probably learned is there's a lot of close plays, and I'm for the replay thing, especially with the meaningfulness of these games. I think if it's not called on the field, just the difference between what's indisputable and what's not, that's the difference right there. Because like there's a player that could be called out that is actually safe, but if it's a bad look, the wrong angle, and it's not indisputable, it's not going to get overturned.
How much stock do you put into it when the players start doing this? Does that influence you at all?
It's a good question. And I actually watched a couple games yesterday where I saw players make the same motion. And I love it when our guys are doing it. They're fighting for their team. I think if they don't do it, then their call's not going to get overturned. Like the player that's right there knows whether he was safe or out. I think you got to kind of discern, is there an emotional attachment to like, hey, we need this guy to be out, or is he actually out? And there's some gray area in that. So you got to read that as best you can.
Next question, back to Ari Koslow.
You were able to have a fully rested bullpen heading into the second game in TC Santa Barbara after Garrett Irvin had his complete game. How important is bullpen management going to be heading into this weekend? And might it be more important that Celsius gets further into the game on Friday?
I don't know if it's more important. Good question. I think that the max games you're going to play this weekend is 3. So it's the same as you do during the regular season. Whereas if you get into that losers bracket in a regional, you got to play 5 to win it, unless you're 2-0 out the chute. So, you know, Saturday or Sunday was interesting because, you know, once we got to 4-1 with 9 outs to go, it's like, we're going for it. I'm not leaving anything in the tank. I'm not coaching thinking these guys are going to fail and worry about burning somebody for tomorrow. That was the time to go for it. So I think it really just depends. But I do like the fact that we finished on Sunday. We're not playing until Friday. Everybody will be 100% ready to go, all hands on deck for all 3 games.
Do we have any more questions for Coach? All right, thank you, everybody. That's all for today. We'll have more details hopefully tomorrow about Thursday's media session.